The board will now come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer, Alderman Oldenburg, Alderman Cone, Alderman Narayan, Alderman Vollmer, Alderwoman Velazquez,
Aye. Present.
Alderwoman Sanye, Alderwoman Spencer, Alderman Browning, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Alderwoman Keys, Alderwoman Tyus, Alderwoman Boyd, Alderman Aldridge, President Green,
Present.
Alderwoman Schweitzer, Alderman Oldenburg, Alderman Cone, Alderwoman Sanye, Alderwoman Spencer, Alderwoman Keys, Alderwoman Boyd. 9 present, you have quorum.
A quorum being present, we will be led in opening reflection and prayer by Executive Director of the Center for Hearing and Speech, Kathy Brown.
Thank you so much for having me in honor of National Speech Language Hearing Month. We at the Center for Hearing and Speech, who have been transforming lives by empowering communication in this community for more than 100 years, believe that communication is a fundamental human right. The ability to communicate, however we do that, allows us to connect to the world around us. Someone wrote that the ability to communicate, to receive, process, store, and produce messages is central to human interaction and participation. To understand and to be understood not only enables expression of basic needs and wants, but also enables interaction and participation at the family, community, national, and global level. All humans, regardless of their capacity, send and receive messages. Human communication can be expressed through law, poetry, mathematics, history, conversation, music, art, and social media, linking humans across time, generations, and continents. I'd like to share one such piece of communication from a woman whose name you might recognize. In 1927, the center's first president, Mr. Julian Scott, received a letter, which seems to be one in a series of pieces of correspondence from a Miss Helen Keller. In this letter, she delights in taking in the information shared with her and shares some thoughts of her own as well. I won't read the entire letter, just my favorite parts, but I do have copies if anybody would like one. Dear Mr. Scott, I thank you especially for your delightful letter. I do not receive many letters to which I listen with such genuine pleasure as I did yours, so full of charm and individuality. Your beautiful words about my inner sight and hearing sank deeper into my heart than most of the comments people make about me. To be thus associated with another's intimate thoughts and quiet joys is the sweetest possible experience. To know that in every nook and corner of the earth, there is a well-wisher who holds community with me in the spirit is precious satisfaction that I would not barter for the richest gold mine in the world. Your self-criticism seems to suggest that you do not believe in yourself as you should. From my point of view, observation, you are putting up a splendid fight against great difficulties. Of course, you will win. If we believe in ourselves, defeat is unthinkable. We have the power to take our lives between our hands and mold them to the bright vision we gaze upon. There is no telling what a masterpiece of living the most disabled may produce if they care to use the faculties with which they are endowed. Thank you for the invitation to be with you today at the close of National Speech Language Hearing Month. Thank you for your service and your commitment to using your gift of communication to shape the future of this city and beyond. Of course, you will win.
We will dispense with the regular order of business to take up the courtesy resolution calendar. Aldermen from the 4th, you are recognized on the motion to suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing courtesy resolutions number 53, 54, and 55.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I move that we suspend the rules to introduce courtesy resolution number 54 and number 55.
It's been moved by the alderman from the 4th, seconded by the alderperson from the 10th, that we suspend the rules to introduce courtesy resolutions number 54 and 55. This is a non-debatable motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye.
Okay, so he's
Aye.
so we,
Alderwoman Spencer.
okay.
Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Keys. 12 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the alderman from the 4th to suspend the rules for purposes of introducing resolutions number 54 and 55. Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the motion to adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adopt the courtesy resolutions consent calendar.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
It's been moved by the alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the alderman from the 14th, that we adopt the courtesy resolution calendar. Is there any discussion? Alderman from the 14th.
Yeah, it's blinking. Oh. Thank you, Madam Chair, members, Madam President, and members of the Board of Aldermen. Today, I want to talk a little bit about Resolution 55 that is on the resolution calendar. It is a special moment in South St. Louis and the Cherokee area. I'm honored, even though it is not the 14th, but it is in the Simmery 7th Ward, to be able to speak on a business that have been doing great work in the city of St. Louis. They're actually celebrating their 10 years of being in service. Luminary is a historic, innovative art gallery space that really allows people to uplift themselves. They have hosted over 56 major exhibits, 32 studio members from the community, and 134 artists, and hundreds of event space supported in the home of Cherokee. While it sits in the home of Cherokee, and I see the alderwoman from the 8th Ward that used to represent the area smiling very hard, it is also very close to Gravois Park and Ben Park West. What is amazing about this space, it is, again, a free space that allows artists to be able to really express themselves. They have a lot of different exhibits that aren't just focused on one thing, but very diverse and very innovative. I'm looking forward to being able to learn more about them. And from the Board of Aldermen, we just wanted to say thank you on their 10 years of service as an exhibit, but even more importantly, the work that they do for the city of St. Louis, but also the work that they do especially in the Cherokee neighborhood. It is just one of many gems of the 7th Ward and in Cherokee Street. And it's an honor today to be able to recognize their 10 years of service to the Cherokee neighborhood and the city. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 7th.
Hi, I just wanted to thank I know that she's present today. She's in the gallery, I believe, if she doesn't want to come up and speak. I hope you all can hear it in my voice that I'm just a little sick and under the weather. So I just wanted to make sure I acknowledged her presence there today, and that I thank Alderman Aldridge for standing in the gap for me. As he said, the Luminary is an incredible asset, an incredible gem of the 7th Ward and to the Benton Park West neighborhood, and they do some extraordinary work that benefits our entire public. Oh, actually, she's on the floor. I'm not there, but she's on the floor. So I just wanted to make sure I acknowledged her since I know that she's present, but she's on the floor, and just make sure to her and to any community members that might be watching that you all knew that Alderman Aldridge was standing the gap because I don't feel the best today.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 8th.
President, members of the board, I just wanted to stand and rise in recognition of Luminary Kalaya, your leadership, and just the transformation that the Luminary has really ushered in on Cherokee Street, the welcoming vibe that this space creates, and just the underlying platform for creative expression, small businesses, and the support that the Luminary offers, not just to the creative community, but the surrounding community as a whole, and the thoughtful conversations that take place in that open space. And I want to take a moment to invite everyone to the opening tonight from 6 to 9 at the Luminary. If you haven't been there tonight, it would be a great opportunity to check it out.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderperson from the 14th, that we adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Introduction of honored guests. Any introduction of honored guests? Alderwoman from the 10th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I would like to first have as my honored guest our former colleague, Alderwoman Heather Navarro. I know she's not still watching, but she knows that I was not going to let the day go by since I have the honor of serving as her Alder Lady too now. Happy birthday, happy birthday, Heather. I pray you enjoy your day. And then for my other honored guest, I want to make sure STL TV turns the cameras around and see what I saw when I looked up this morning and saw two beautiful smiles from Shelby and Savannah. So I want to make sure that they know that they just made my day this morning. You all are beautiful. You have the world ahead of you. You have an amazing dad and an amazing mom. And we love you down here. So have fun. Enjoy your daddy day today, okay?
Any further introduction of honored guests? Any further introduction of honored guests? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 10th, Alderwoman from the 7th.
Hi, Kalia, who is the executive director of the Luminary, is my special guest. I'm sorry if this isn't clear.
Thank you. Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the approval of the minutes from Thursday, May 23rd, 2024.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we approve the minutes from Thursday, May 23rd, 2024.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderperson from the 14th, that we approve the minutes from Thursday, May 23rd, 2024. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Motion carries. Report of city official.
Report of city officials can be found in A, B, and C of the agenda and has been placed in the Google Drive for your review.
We can dispense with line items 8, 9, 10, and 11. Alderwoman from the 8th, you are recognized on the motion to suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Board Bill 44 for first reading. Alderwoman from the 8th. Alderwoman from the 8th, you are recognized in the motion to suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Board Bill 44.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we suspend the rules for the purpose of introducing Board Bill 44.
Second. It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 8th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Board Bill 44. This is a non-debatable motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Aldenberg.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Orion. Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye.
You're a hell of a leader.
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge.
Aye.
President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys. 14 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 8th. Madam Clerk, please place Board Bill 44 at the end of the first reading of board bills.
So noted.
First reading of board bills.
Board Bill 44 is sponsored by Alderman Aldridge, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and the comptroller of the city of St. Louis to execute a temporary construction easement with certain terms and conditions with Kokoskin Ploker LLC to allow its equipment, workers, and materials to be transferred through and placed upon certain property for the purpose of constructing and installing the St. Louis Metropolitan Sewer District Bissell Treatment Plant fluidized bed incineration over certain city-owned property, which property is known and numbered as 61 Ferry in the city of St. Louis, Missouri, 63135, containing the severability clause and an emergency clause. Board Bill 43, sponsored by Alderwoman Tyus, an ordinance creating a senior citizens parking zone and a senior citizen passenger loading zone, providing a mechanism for the creation of senior citizen parking zone and senior citizen passenger curb loading zone permits, and authorizing the city to establish special senior citizens parking zone and senior citizen passenger curb loading zones, containing a penalty provision and a severability clause. Board Bill 44, sponsored by Alderwoman Spencer, an ordinance pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, an ordinance directing the director of streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on various blocks in the 8th Ward. That's the extent of first reading of board bills.
Please assign Board Bill 44 to the Public Infrastructure and Utilities.
So noted.
Reference to Committee of Board Bills.
To the Public Infrastructure and Utilities Committee, Board Bill 42, 43, and 44.
Second reading and report of standing committees.
The following board bills were reported out of HUD's committee with the due pass recommendation. Board Bill 17, sponsored by Alderwoman Spencer, an ordinance recommended by the Planning Commission on April 17, 2024, to change the zoning of property as indicated on district map from the K unrestricted district to the D multiple family dwelling district in City Block 847, so as to include the described parcel of land in City Block 847 containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 34, sponsored by Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, repealing ordinance number 71822 in its entirety, and amended ordinance number 71393, ordinance number 71494, ordinance number 71505, ordinance number 71554, ordinance number 71561, ordinance number 71591, ordinance number 71592, and ordinance number 71650 by reappropriating certain amounts specified herein in an aggregated amount of $13,819,393.64 for purposes with an emergency clause. The following board bills were reported out of Public Infrastructure with the due pass recommendation. Board Bill 27, sponsored by Alderwoman Boyd, an ordinance establishing a two-way stop site at the intersection of Grape Avenue and Terra Lane, regulating all traffic traveling on Grape Avenue and Terra Lane at the intersection of Grape Avenue and Terra Lane. Board Bill 28, sponsored by Alderwoman Boyd, an ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, to calm the flow of traffic on the 5500 block of Era Avenue, the 1800 block of Eden Avenue, the 5600 block of Hiller Place, the 5900 block of Park Lane, and the 5000 block of Claxton Avenue. Board Bill 39, sponsored by Alderwoman Sanye, pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, an ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on various blocks in the 7th Ward. The following board bill was reported out of Health and Human Development with the due pass recommendation. Board Bill 40, sponsored by Alderwoman Boyd, Alderwoman Schweitzer, Alderman Ballmer, and Alderwoman Saunier. An ordinance authorizing the City of St. Louis by and through its Forestry Commissioner of the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Forestry to accept the grant award from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Forest Service, Urban and Community Forestry Inflation Reduction Act grant program in the amount of $8 million containing an emergency clause. That's the extent of second reading. Report of standing committees.
Report of special committees.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item 15. Alderwoman from the 1st.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, please place Board Bill 31 as amended on the informal calendar.
Perfection. Madam Clerk, please place Board Bill number 31 as amended on the perfection informal calendar.
So noted.
Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, please place Board Bill 32 as amended on the regular perfection calendar. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, if you could please move Board Bill 32 as amended to the regular calendar.
So noted.
Board bills for perfection consent.
Board Bill 26, sponsored by Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, an ordinance authorizing and directing the Director of Streets to permanently close, barricade, or otherwise impede the flow of traffic on the 5800 block of Cates Avenue by blocking said traffic at the intersection of the 5800 block of Cates Avenue and Hamilton Avenue. That's the extent of board bills for perfection consent.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adopt the board bills for perfection consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adopt the board bills for perfection consent calendar.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we adopt the board bills for the perfection consent calendar. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Board bills for perfection.
Board Bill 32 as amended, sponsored by Alderwoman Spencer and the following alderpersons: Boyd, Cone, Keys, Clark Hubbard, Browning, Saunier, Narayan, Velasquez, Aldrich, and Schweitzer. An ordinance authorizing the honorary street name on Leon Way pursuant to ordinance number 68937, which shall begin at the intersection of South 8th Street and Walnut Street and run north on South 8th Street to the intersection of South 8th Street and Market.
Alderwoman from the 8th, you are recognized on the perfection of Board Bill 32 as amended.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we perfect Board Bill 32 as amended.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 8th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we perfect Board Bill number 32 as amended. Alderwoman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President. Board Bill 32 as amended is a board bill that will establish the honorary street name in recognition of St. Louis's very own Chinatown. As a lifelong St. Louisan, it was not even known to me that we, as a city, had a Chinatown. This area on 8th Street between Market and Walnut was demolished many years in 1969, but Chinatown really flourished in our city from the middle of the 1800s until 1969. This was an area of great prominence, one that really was a welcoming and a very important part of our Asian American culture. I want to take a moment to recognize Peter Tao, who wasn't here during our special guest honoring, but is my special guest this morning. You know, this was an initiative that was brought to my attention. I'm just the carrier here and happened to have the honor of representing part of our city, but this recognition was brought forward by Mr. Tao and members of the Asian American community. Just for a little bit of history here, as I mentioned, Chinatown really existed in our downtown for nearly a century, from 1869 to 1966. When we were deliberating this, we added an amendment, and I think it's important to recognize that amendment here this morning. And it's a touching moment. But I think it's important to recognize. So if you don't mind, I'm going to read it right now. This is part of our whereas clauses in this board bill, but I think it's important. It's a sad moment of our history, but one I think that is really worth revisiting here. Whereas in 1904, St. Louis and the United States would joyously celebrate the Louisiana Purchase Exposition, also known as our World's Fair, and invite China to participate in the fair, yet confine their Chinese workers to the fairgrounds, where due to Africa were granted temporary admittance to the U.S. for only the duration of the fair, each worker with a $500 bond attached to their head to ensure their return to China upon the close of the fair, the total of which would be handcuffed in pairs regardless of illnesses, and marched to the Wabash train station to board the guarded trains to San Francisco. Certainly a dark chapter of our city's history, but I want to go on and read the next clause because it's important to remember how our city has rebounded from some very, very awful history. Whereas Asian Americans in St. Louis have since found resilience over several generations, building community and solidarity through significant economic and cultural contributions, including creating in 1973 the founding chapter of an Asian American advocacy and civil rights group known as OCA, formerly standing for the Organization of Chinese Americans, to becoming the first city in the nation to have a sister city in China in 1979. The first city. This is an amazing part of our city's culture, our city's cultural history. And I want to take a moment, too, to recognize a friend of mine from, many people reached out to me, obviously, in our Asian American community, one of which was a friend of mine from high school. His mother reached out. She's of Japanese American descent, and she pointed out that the reason her family came to St. Louis, during World War II, there were 100,000 Americans of Japanese descent who were removed from their homes in West Coast and sent to relocation camps. Her parents were among them. They spent the next years in camps, and most men of eligible age were drafted into the Army, like her father was, to be an interpreter. At that time, Japanese American students of college age were not accepted to any colleges or universities on the West Coast or in many cases throughout the United States. One exception was Washington University. They accepted eligible Japanese Americans who qualified. Among them were two architectural students, Gyo Obata and Richard Hemney, and they went on to start the world-class, world-famous HOK architectural firm. And I want to point out Mr. Tao is also an architect with Tao & Associates. What a rich cultural history that we have here. And now I'd really like to recognize my friend and colleague, Alderman Brett Narayan, also an Asian American, to speak. And I want to recognize you for taking the leadership here and pulling this off the consent calendar so that we could discuss it here on the floor.
Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. As my colleague pointed out, I did pull this off of the consent calendar. My hope is not to debate it, but rather I didn't want this to pass without any acknowledgement of it. I'm ecstatic that this is happening. I think it's far too long overdue. Throughout our history in this city, we seem to bulldoze communities of color to make way for quote-unquote progress, whether that's a highway or a stadium or most recently a Costco. It's incredibly frustrating, and I just hope that the next time that we look to demo a swath of our city to make way for a building, we look to see who we're displacing. Because very recently here, many of those folks who were displaced from the original Hoptown to make way for the stadium here, a lot of them went over to University City, into what was then their international district. These are folks who built up businesses with nothing. They didn't ask the government for handouts. They didn't ask for TIFs. They didn't ask for incentives. They simply came together as a community and built business, and they thrived until a large corporate entity wanted to come in, and then the government was stumbling over themselves trying to give taxpayer dollars to a giant corporation that specifically displaced an Asian community again. And I hope that this sign is just a small marker that we'll all see as we go into Busch Stadium. And I want to be clear, I love Busch Stadium just as much as the next guy. But if we are looking at the location itself, I think when we build things, we need to take into account what we're displacing when we build things. But I hope as we all go into Busch Stadium in the future and cheer on the Cardinals here, that we see this, and the next time that it's time to demolish several city blocks to make way for whatever progress may be in the future, that we look at who we're displacing and ensure that we're not displacing an entire community of people. At this point, I would ask that we also make this bank.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 4th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 12th, that we make Board Bill number 32 as amended in bank. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Alderwoman from the 12th.
Madam President, members of the board. Madam President, members of the board, I want to echo the phrase and words of both the Alderman from the 8th and Alderman from the 4th about displacement. It is an unfortunate thing that has happened all over this city. African Americans have many stories about Mill Creek and other communities that they just tear up or were told where they could not live. Also, if you go over on the hill, you'll see a highway going right through the middle of the hill. If you look at the Chase Park Plaza, there's a history about who could go into the Chase, so the Jewish people had to build the Park Plaza. So that is a thing that I hope in our future that we will stop doing. I am fortunate enough in my family, we have a multicultural family, Hispanic, African American, Asian, African American, Japanese, Korean. So growing up in my life, white and African American, I always grew up in a multicultural family. It makes for you to understand that everybody is valuable and they bring something. That was what our whole country was built on, is that not for us to just be one kind of simmering kind of little mesh. We were a stew. We had chunks of different kinds of people, and that's what makes a community and a neighborhood and ultimately the United States a great place to be. We've kind of gotten away from that now, and everybody wants to close our borders, only one side of our border, by the way. Never talk about closing that northern border, just that southern border. We never talk about that part of what is California was Mexico. But these are the things that we have to get over and really value the people. I think this is an excellent idea. I wish we could even make a bigger kind of marker. I would put money toward that because we need to honor that we've had all different kinds of people in this community. Since I've been down here, if you look up around our own chambers, it's not reflective of anything that looks like what this world. I've been saying this for 30 years. We need to change this chamber so it reflects that. So I'm honored to be a co-sponsor of this because this is much needed, and we can keep our conversation about why it's not okay to omit people or to try to eradicate them, because they could be the next person solving one of the world's greatest problems if we just give them a chance. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 8th, you're recognized to close.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. And with that, I ask for your favorable consideration of Board Bill 32 as amended.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 8th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we perfect Board Bill number 32 as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Report of engrossment.
Board Bill 21.
Third reading and final passage of Board Bills consent.
Board Bill 21.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the motion to adopt the third reading and final passage of Board Bills on the consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adopt the third reading and final passage of Board Bills consent calendar.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we adopt the third reading and final passage of board bills on the consent calendar. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan. Alderman Valmer. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanier.
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys. 14 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 10th to third read and finally pass the aforementioned bills. Third reading and final passage of board bills.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item 18B. Report of the finally passed and signed by the President.
Board Bill 21.
All other business being suspended, the President shall in open session affix her signature hereto and that these may become law. First reading of resolutions in reference to committees.
We have none.
Can dispense with line item 20. Second reading resolutions, committee reports and adoptions.
Report from the Health and Human Development Committee. The reappointment to the Mental Health Board, Mr. Mario Hamill and Ms. Linda Grayson.
Alderwoman from the 13th, you're recognized on Mayor Jones' appointments to the Mental Health Board.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm asking for favorable consideration of the reappointment to the Mental Health Board, Mr. Mario Hamill and Ms. Linda Grayson.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 13th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th. We approve appointments to the Mental Health Board. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The appointment to the Developmental Disabilities Resource Commission, Ms. Selena Washington.
Alderwoman from the 13th, you're recognized on Mayor Jones' appointments to the Developmental Disabilities
Resource Commission.
Yes.
And thank you, Madam President. I'm asking for favorable consideration to appointment to the Development Disability Resource Commission, Ms. Selena Washington.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 13th, seconded by the Alderperson from the 3rd, that we approve Mayor Jones' appointments to the Developmental Disabilities Resource Commission. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That's the extent of second reading, resolutions, committee report, and adoptions.
Miscellaneous and unfinished business.
We have none.
Announcements.
Saturday, June 1st, the Budget and Public Employees will have a hearing at the International Institute at 3401 Arsenal Street at 10 a.m., and it is a public input meeting. Monday, June 3rd, Budget and Public Employees will have a hearing in the Kennedy Room at 10:30 a.m. Special Committee on Reducing Red Tape will have a hearing in the Kennedy Room at 3 p.m. Tuesday, June 4th, Budget and Public Employees will have a hearing in the Kennedy Room at 10 a.m. Legislation and Rules will have a hearing via webinar at 2 p.m. Committee of the Whole will have a hearing in the Kennedy Room at 3:30 p.m. Wednesday, June 5th, Budget and Public Employees will have a hearing in the Kennedy Room at 9 a.m. Public Infrastructure will have a hearing in the Kennedy Room at 3:30 p.m. Thursday, June 6th, Budget and Public Employees will have a committee hearing in the Kennedy Room at 9:30 a.m. Public Safety will have a hearing in the Kennedy Room at 2:30 p.m. Friday, June 7th, 2024, full board meeting in the chambers at 10 a.m. That's the extent of the announcements.
It's a lot of committee meetings. Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Tomorrow marks a very special month. It is probably the second best month outside of Black History Month. Tomorrow marks Pride Month. Pride Month is a time to celebrate and honor the LGBTQIA plus community, as well as raise awareness about the ongoing fight of equality, acceptance, and the right for individuals, regardless of their sexuality, orientation, or gender identity. It is a time to recognize the struggles that the LGBT plus community individuals have faced and continue to face, and stand with them in solidarity. Pride Month is not just only a time of celebration for the LGBTQIA plus community, but also a time to push forward for the fight of racial inclusivity, intersectionality, and liberation for all marginalized groups. It is a time to challenge the status quo, dismantle systems of oppression, and work towards a future where everyone can live their authentic selves without fear of discrimination or violence. Pride Month is not just a powerful time to love one another and a time to celebrate, but is a powerful reminder of the ongoing struggles of the LGBTQIA plus community's rights, as well as the need to center the voices of experience of the most marginalized within the LGBTQIA community, peoples of color, transgender individuals, and those intersecting identities. It is a time to uplift diverse narratives, celebrate resistance, and advocate for systematic change. This month is an opportunity to take action, amplify marginalized voices, and push forward for a bold, transformative change. It is a time for progressives, status quos, conservatives, whatever your title is, whatever your sexual orientation or your identity, to be able to uplift ones who love themselves, the ones who just want to love who they love, and a time to celebrate our LGBTQIA plus community. Happy Pride Month as we approach it tomorrow.
Thank you. Alderman from the 3rd.
Thank you, Madam President. I would just like to echo the sentiments of my colleague from the 14th. And I would also like to extend an invitation to anyone that's available on Monday, June 3rd. This coming Monday at 11:30, we will be raising the Pride flag at City Hall here with Mayor Jones. Everyone is welcome to attend. Would love to see you there. And then also, I would like to make sure that the clerk notes that there is a TNC, a Transportation and Commerce Committee meeting Tuesday at 9 a.m.
Any further?
The flag raising is taking place in Washington Square, just outside of City Hall here. So it's the main flagpole for City Hall. Again, it's Monday, June 3rd at 11:30.
Thank you. Alderwoman from the 7th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I wanted to announce, first of all, make sure that I acknowledge Alderwoman Boyd for the work that she did around the Bringing It Together event that was held by Miss Holly Stewart, and thank all the alders who were able to be there. Myself and Alderwoman Clark Hubbard and Alderman Aldridge even got to do a little two-step with some of the seniors. That was a lot of fun, and I know Miss Stewart felt like her event was greatly supported, and she always appreciates it. I also wanted to make sure that I announced the community meeting that will be at the Southside Wellness Center on June 5th at 6 o'clock around the restoration of the Garbalia building. And I also wanted to again announce the opening tonight at the Luminary that will be at 6 o'clock. Like Alderwoman Spencer said, if you haven't been, this is a great time to go and learn about the history and meet some amazing local artists. And then also make sure that I do my usual announcement of I am still working on the legislation around the unhoused pertaining to our plat petition process in the zoning area, and make sure that I let my colleagues know. Many of you have gotten to me and we've started having conversations, but make sure that you all know that that invitation for me to come to any community space you want to have conversations is still open, and all of you should have a draft of what I'm thinking in your all's email boxes. Thank you.
Alderwoman from the 6th.
Great. Thank you, Madam President and members of the board. Just wanted to remind everybody that the next special committee for red tape hearing or listening session is Monday at 3 p.m. in the Kennedy Room. We'll be hearing from small businesses in general. So hope to see you there. And if you know any small businesses that would like to comment on their experience, please send them our way.
Any further announcements? Seeing none, Alderwoman for the 8th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I just wanted to take a moment to invite everybody to Soulard Pride tomorrow morning starting at 11 a.m. I'll be there after the budget committee hearing, so join me down in Soulard for Soulard Pride.
Any further announcements? Alderwoman from the 10th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I would like to announce this weekend, Saturday, June 1st, in the 10th Ward at Soldan High School is the 3rd annual Coaches versus Crime. Khalil Manure and the team, the Willie Davis Foundation does an amazing job to put this event on to combat violence and build relationships and communication like we talked about this morning between our law enforcement, between our first responders and our community. So again, Soldan High School, the Willie Davis Foundation, 3rd annual Coaches versus Crime. There will be bragging rights. So there is a game. There's plenty of games, but the one game that I want to make sure I speak on, because we got to cheer for them, is SLMPD versus St. Louis County PD. So let's get those bragging rights, yeah.
Any further announcements? Any further announcements? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the motion to excuse.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we excuse the Alderwoman from the 11th for necessary absence.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we excuse the Alderperson from the 11th for necessary absence. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adjourn until Friday, June 7th, 2024 in the Board of Aldermen chambers.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we adjourn until Friday, June 7th, 2024 in the Board of Aldermen chambers. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned.